backs of the cabinets are painted. I'm going to have to go back and touch them up, but that's okay. I caulked all these joints, and apparently I didn't let the caulk dry long enough before I put the paint on them. That's fun. That's fine. I knew I'm going to have to touch them up anyway, because I'm going to be flipping and flopping them around, and you know, it is what it is. I use this Bear Dynasty that I had laying around. I don't know, I forgot. I don't even remember what I bought it for, but it was the closest thing I had to flat black, and you know, quite frankly, it looks great. So I taped off to hide my sins here. I taped off I taped off the edges. I just painted the outside of the bottoms. They look pretty good. You're never going to see the inside, so I didn't paint the inside. There's no real need to. So that's pretty much that. The next step is going to be, well, the next step's going to happen right now. I'll flip them over. Of course, I dinged one of these already, but I don't think I can fix it. I know I can fix it. The other thing I got to do, and I'm going to start with this one, is I need to put some more filler along this top edge here, on this one in particular. So just because I got the camera running, I'm going to do this one first, because this one needs the most. Whenever you use glue and sawdust as filler, you have to put it on in multiple coats. So this is my fucky joint here. You got to put it on in multiple coats because the glue shrinks when it dries, and then the glue shrinks when it dries. No matter what you do, it shrinks up. So we're gonna do that first. The yellow glue that I'm using, dries really quick. So we're going to get the first, we'll get the first coat of that on. I don't know if it'll show up on camera, but like where I caulked it, the paint shrunk a little bit, or the caulk shrunk a little bit. I used cheap caulk. I'm just going to throw the bottom on this one real fast so it's a little bit easier to handle. These speakers, with every iteration of what I'm doing, are getting heavier and heavier, which was what I wanted. Okay, so this is the joint in question. I'm not gonna lie, I literally just got so frustrated with this joint that I just gave up. So yeah, you know, I gave up. I got tired of fighting with it. And I said, to hell with this mess. I'm gonna fill it with wood filler. At the end of the day, it probably would have been easier, or it's no easier to fill. It's easier to make your joints right the first time, and I screwed up, and I'm owning my screw up here. Just gonna take a little bit of this. This is original Type Bond. And we're going to put some in the crack. Now this is sawdust that I actually specifically made to do this with. This is 220 grit grade sawdust with a little bit of coarser sawdust in it. I've had somewhat kind of mixed success doing this. hopefully this works for this. I'm really hoping it works for this. This works a hell of a lot better when the gap isn't quite as big as this. This is a pretty decent size screw up. So I'm just gonna push that in there. And that's gonna be that. You can see it's goobing out of there. This is not my favorite way of fixing shit, but in this particular case, it's just for me. This isn't for a customer, so I'm kind of, this is why I don't. This is why I don't do this kind of stuff professionally. Because if this was a job that I was getting paid for, I'd scrap this whole thing and remake it. That's why I don't make any money at woodwork. So the other spot I got is over here. Now this size gap is a little bit more appropriate for this type of filler. Again, we're just going to take a little bit of type on. I'm actually going to put a piece of tape here. Fuck it. We can get away with it. Push the glue into the joint. Now you can make a putty, which I've done in the past also, to get you can make a putty, mixing the wood, the sawdust in with the glue and then jam that into the crack, but I'm doing it this way. I kind of am making a putty, but I'm doing it dry, so I'm just kind of like jamming it in there. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little embarrassed by this. These joints should be waist tight, and they're not. My joints are waist tight. My rhymes will flow. Yeah. If you want a long one, baby, I got one for you. All right, so that's gonna be. That's gonna be for. Oops, see, there's a big chunk in there. I'll get rid of that. All right. With that other crack, what I should have done was used planer filings. Like as a heavier grade of filler, and then packed it with the sawdust. I just packed it with sawdust. All right, so that's that for this one. I'm gonna set this one aside. Yeah, see, there's a spot I missed. I hate it. I was a professional car painter for my entire career, and I hate painting. I hate painting cars. I hate painting anything. I'm not gonna lie, I don't think I was ever cut out to actually be a painter. I'm not super disappointed with these. I'm also not super proud of them either. I admittedly put the cart in front of the horse a little bit, or put the cart before the horse with these. I really should have waited until I had the physical speakers in my hand before I built the carcasses. I could have made these about 2 inches smaller overall. And then actually what happened was they were 2 inches bigger overall than I wanted them to be. There's no question they're absolutely larger than I had originally intended. But the upside is that where these are being placed in the room is literally a dead spot. There's nothing can be put there that isn't, I hate to use the word custom fit, but, and these are like, they're not built in, obviously, because they're out here, but they are akin to a built-in type of deal. They're made specifically to fit that spot. Now, I think what I may end up doing too, and it's why I didn't finish the bottom here more than this, I'm probably going to paint this bottom edge too. But I wanted to get everything else done first. The other thing I did was I taped off these things so I didn't get paint in the threads. So I mentioned before, this is an 8-inch gear-driven DA. There's a lot of ways you could sand this. You could sand it by hand if you wanted to. I am not a big fan of hand sanders. The biggest issue with this sander is it's not dust-free. It flings dust everywhere. The paper's really expensive. And if you're not careful with it, this thing will go through this piece of wood faster than you can shake a stick. I can't wait until I can clean my shop up. I got sawdust everywhere. I generally only use this sander for roughing purposes. I have a finish sander. The stroke on this, if you don't know anything about sanders, which I don't expect most people to do, this is like a 5/16 rotation on this thing. It's really an aggressive sander. Not as bad as a belt sander, but not far off. Now, but it's good for getting rid of stuff like this. Shim that. I can't deal with that. I can't deal with that. I don't know if it'll show up on camera, but it bears witness or bears mentioning here. So this is what I'm trying to get rid of, and it's very fascinating to me how quickly cherry in particular, oak does it too, but cherry is really bad at it, and it oxidizes like crazy. So like I could sand this today, let it sit. If I sand this today, all fresh and clean, finish it with like 220 and then put a piece of tape on it, no matter what kind of tape it is. I could even just take a piece of paper and set it on here, come back 2 days from now, and the paper will have left a mark, and then that's what I have going on here. This is where the joint was, and you can see as I'm sanding it, you can see where it's oxidized, where it hasn't been sanded yet. It's fascinating. I'm absolutely fascinated with the way that wood oxidizes. You can also see the tremendous amount of snipe from my, either it was the joiner or the planer. So there's a line right there from where I ran the wood through the planer, and where it's oxidized here, but it's not oxidized here where I just sanded it. So I got to get rid of that too, because that stuff will all show up in the end finished product. I'm going to shut the camera off because watching me sand is almost as boring as listening to me talk. So I have this chalk that I bought for the kids to draw all over my pool deck with, and this is a piece of black. I used this as a guide coat, and I didn't like the way it worked. I didn't like the way it worked. It worked. I just didn't like the way it worked. So one of the interesting things in my hoard is my glass blowing equipment. And one of the major tools that I use for glass blowing is graphite. The inanimate carbon rod, the employee of the month here today. So I have this piece of graphite that I'm using. This is harder than chalk, way harder than chalk. I mean, but it's super duper brittle, but it is harder than chalk, and it makes great. It makes great for guide coating. I did this a lot extensively when I was doing a lot of cutting boards. So this piece is busted. It's no good for anything, for glass working at least, not for me. So what I'm doing is I've sanded this out with 80, and now I'm going to go back over it with 120. My final finish on this is probably going to be at least 220. I have a unique, again, my board, because I'm a car painter. I have sandpaper that is like super duper fine. In the world of woodworking, it's almost unheard of. I have my sandpaper goes up to 3,000. I'm not going anywhere near that high for this project, but I am definitely going to finish it probably in 400 before I apply the monocoat. But from what I can see, just from my initial sanding here, is what happened with the joint is exactly what I knew was going to happen, and it bears noting. Titebond 3, which is the glue that I use to glue this together with, has a tendency to dry, I don't want to say black, but it dries really dark. And that was a mistake. I should have used this Titebond to glue this together, because this dries not clear but not yellow, and definitely not black. The Titebond 3 Blanc is black when it dries, and it makes these shit joints pop out like nobody's business. Upside is my wife, without her glasses on, my wife is legally blind, so I can cheat. I can tell her it looks fantastic, and she won't know the difference. But we won't tell her that. And I don't expect anybody to get right up on top of these. Like I said, these are not for sale. These are for my own personal use. They're going to get stuck in the corner and just become part of the decor. I mentioned earlier in the video, if I was getting paid for these, I would throw these away and I would start over again. So I'm going to switch to my finishing DA. I actually have like 6 or 7 different sanders. This one's like lightweight. It's really super noisy. And this one is a 3/32 rotation, which is as fine as I go. We'll see how this one works. If this one doesn't cut the way I want it to, I'll switch over to a different DA, different sander. Okay, so this cabinet is all sanded out. I went from 80 grit all the way up to 220. Hopefully it showed up on the time lapse. That's a new thing for me. So in theory, these are ready for finish. The finish that I'm using, and my preferred finish, is this stuff. It's called Rubio Monocoat. I'm not gonna lie, I saw some dude on YouTube using it. I'm fairly sure he was he was getting paid by them to use it, because this stuff, this is $50 worth of this stuff. I'm using the Pure, which is it's basically no color at all, but it comes in a bunch of different colors. It's a 2-coat or 2-part system. They use this shitty European packaging, which I hate. But it is what it is. Yeah, I hate the European packaging, but that's what we got. Now, I made a crucial error with this stuff, and I didn't order the cleaner when I bought it. When I ordered this, because I actually used this product to finish the woodwork in my house. So my doors, the mantle I didn't use it on, I wish I had. The doors, the trim, all the cherry in the house is finished with this Rubio Monaco. This stuff is really cool. I don't know exactly what it is. I wish I did, but I don't. And you know what? I don't care. But it comes with this wood. It doesn't come with it. You have to buy it extra. It's this wood cleaner. Now, I've been a painter my whole life, so I was like really skeptical about, how do I need this wood cleaner for? But I ordered it anyway just because. This stuff actually works. Again, I don't know what it is. This is all I've got left. It's all I got left. And it's like $50 a quart, or a liter, because it's European. It only comes in metric. My car gets 4 rods to the hogshead, and that's the way I like it. But it's got to be some kind of hazmat. It smells like carbon tet, or brake clean, or dry cleaning solution. I don't know what it is, but damn, this shit works. So, as a stopgap, because this is all I got, which is enough to do, believe it or not, this, what is it here? 1 ounce. Because my car gets 4 rods to the hogshead, and that's the way I like it. This 1 ounce will actually do both of these cabinets, but that's all it'll do. So we're going to set that aside, and we're going to use my old school wood cleaner, which is super duper high pressure air. I have an industrial air compressor. If you watch my other videos, you see my air compressor set up. And I blast the crap out of it with super duper high pressure air. You also notice I switched to these white rags. These are rags in a box, but they're white. They're white. They're not blue. The blue, you use the blue ones that you get from like Costco or the mechanic shop. They'll leave a stain. They will stain with solvent. So I don't like to use them when I'm painting. So this is mostly water, but there's about, I don't know, maybe 3 ounces. So total in this container, what I got in here is almost 16 ounces, but like maybe 2 ounces or 6, I don't know, maybe 6, it's maybe 50% isopropyl, not isopropyl alcohol, denatured alcohol, and then water. So I'm just going to spray them real quick, and I put a thorough coat on them. This is just water and with a little bit of alcohol, and I'm just going to wipe them off. These are finished in 320. I put the alcohol in there because I don't want the water to absorb into the wood any more than it needs to. The Monaco is really cool because you can, if you're using it on a floor, or if you're using it on a hardwood floor, which is what the stuff is designed for, you can actually leave the wood finished in 80 grit. You don't have to go much higher than 80. I finished these in 320. But you can see that even with the water and the alcohol, I'm getting sawdust off of it. I'm not a huge fan of tack rags. I use them. I'm going to use them right before I finish this. I'm going to I'll hit it with a tack rag. But you don't need to. I don't know, again, I don't know what that stuff is, but what they tell you, and I follow the directions. I actually haven't ever had that stuff fail. I haven't had it fail because I always follow the directions. Because it's so expensive, I follow the directions. wiping with the grain because you should wipe with the grain. The other thing they actually tell you to do or not do is to use paper towels. Before I do my final wipe, I will actually use a nice, soft, lint-free cotton towel. Not a towel, but an old t-shirt. A nice old t-shirt works perfectly for this, or a baby diaper. If you can get a cloth baby diapers are the best thing to wipe them with. So you can see here, just using the alcohol and the water, you get a good bit of cheese off of them. I'm not going to use the monocoat right now. So the other thing I wanted to discuss is how am I going to fix this mess here? So the Rubio monocoat is a two-part system. I've done this in the past and I've had really good results. I had a couple faux pas using in some other projects. So what I did, or what you can do with that stuff is, because it's a catalyzed product, it does get hard. It's like Bondo, kind of. You can actually mix sawdust, which I'll have plenty of. I'll have plenty of fine sanding dust. I'll mix it together. I'll make a little putty, and I'm going to smush it into this crack here, and be done with it, because this is not working the way I wanted it to, and it's really bad on the other one. So the finish, using the finished product, which gets hard, will fill this in, and you'll never see it. And then if absolute 100% push comes to shove, I've got this stuff. Believe it or not, the golden oak matches the cherry. Once the monocoat's on it, it matches the cherry close enough that you really don't see it unless you're right up on it and looking at it. This is a non-drying product, so it's the absolute positive. Last thing I'm going to do is, if I have to, I'm going to put a little bit of this in these cracks. I'll let it sit for a little while. I'll take a damp rag and wipe it, and I'm not going to say it'll disappear, because you will see it, but it makes it a lot less noticeable. And I said the golden oak matches this is close enough that it just kind of all blends in. There we go. Let's. I'm still waiting for the other one to dry, so I think what I'm going to do is set this aside. We'll bring the other one over here and let the fan blow on it and see if we can accelerate the drying a little bit.